Welcome back! My name is ballerscuba. This is Video Games Over Time. We are still in 1982. Today, we're going to talk about the Dark Crystal. The story behind the Dark Crystal takes us to Jim Henson. Jim Henson is an American institution in both film and television. Born in 1936, Henson got his first job in 1954, while he was still in high school. He created puppets for a local Saturday morning children's show, named the Junior Morning Show, which was based out of Washington, D.C. Once Jim Henson made it to college, he started creating his own shows, starting with Sam and Friends, a 5-minute local puppet show for children based in Washington, D.C. Some of the puppets that Henson would create for this show would inspire some of his most famous characters. Henson would get a lot of attention for his work, going on talk shows throughout the 60s. He also created hundreds of commercials using his puppets, which Henson named Muppets. In 1963, Henson hired puppet performer Frank Oz and started creating short films. His 1965 film, Timepiece, would be nominated for an Academy Award for Best Live-Action Short Film. However, Henson would achieve his first lasting success in 1969. That year, Henson's Muppets became a main feature on the children's television show Sesame Street. While Jim Henson did not create Sesame Street, the characters felt that Henson's Muppets could help the show develop their focus on helping young children, and decided to heavily feature the characters. Fearing that their Muppets were being typecast as children's entertainers, Henson and Oz turned to more mature entertainment. They created several sketches for Saturday Night Live, a late-night sketch show, in 1975. These Land of Gorch sketches, however, were not popular, especially among the writers for SNL, who struggled to write for the Muppet characters. The men also created their own variety show, In the Muppet Show, which started airing in 1976. The show became a hit among the audience and the critics, cementing many of the Muppet characters as stars in their own right. These Muppets would then star in their own film, The Muppet Movie, in 1979, which Henson produced. This film also became a commercial and critical success. In 1981, The Muppet Show ended, with Henson deciding to focus on films instead. That same year, Henson directed The Great Muppet Caper, the second film starring the Muppets. While successful, the film was not as popular or well received as the first film. Henson decided to turn away from the Muppets for his next film, wishing to create something more realistic and darker. That next film would become The Dark Crystal. The Dark Crystal takes inspiration from Henson's Land of Gorch sketches from Saturday Night Live. Henson wanted to create an alien world with no human characters. He also took inspiration from the fairy tales of the Brothers Grimm, wanting to emulate the darkness of those stories, feeling that it was not healthy for children to never be scared. Henson wrote his first story while snowed in at an airport hotel, a 25-page story named The Crystal. He took the story's philosophical inspiration from Jane Roberts' Seth material, a collection of channeled spiritual writing that became a cornerstone of New Age philosophy. Henson brought in David Odell to flesh out the script, but only if Odell read Seth material first. David Odell had previously written for The Muppet Show, as well as The Muppet Movie. Henson went so far as to even make a constructed language for the film. The concept artist for the film would be Brian Froud. Henson had found Froud's artwork in Once Upon a Time, as well as The Land of Froud. Froud would help create a unique style for the film, one that used elaborate puppets and animatronics to create a vivid and realistic world filled with several different kinds of creatures and styles. Several of the species would test the limits of the puppeteers with their size and distinct style. The Dark Crystal was filmed from April to September 1981 in the United Kingdom, directed by Jim Henson and Frank Oz. Veteran South African composer Trevor Jones was hired to create the soundtrack. Jones wanted to create an otherworldly sound for the film, using electronics and uncommon instruments and structures, but this was seen as too alienating. So the London Symphony Orchestra was brought in to perform the soundtrack. After filming was completed, the film was shown as a preview. The audience did not react well to the preview, however, so faith in the film dropped, and the release was postponed. Jim Henson had to buy the rights in order to get the film released. The Dark Crystal was released in North America on December 17, 1982. In its opening weekend, the film was the third most successful film. While this was higher than expected, it is speculated that the film suffered from parental concerns about the film's dark tones, and with Jim Henson's association with entertainment for young children. However, the film grew in popularity over time. It made over $40.5 million at the box office, over $113 million in 2022. The film would receive mixed reviews from the critics. While the technical aspects and imagination of the film were praised, the film's plot and pacing were seen as weak spots. As time has gone on, the film's reception would be more positive. Fans of Jim Henson as well as fans of fantasy have turned The Dark Crystal into a cult hit. There were plans for a sequel to the film, but the film's initial lack of success canceled those plans. Instead, the world of The Dark Crystal would be more fleshed out in novel form. The film was released with a novelization, which was written by A.C.H. Smith. It would take some time, but that novelization would see follow-ups in the future. The world of The Dark Crystal would see additional screen time as well, but that would also take time. The Dark Crystal may not have been initially successful, but the film would prove to be influential in the world of video games. We will keep an eye on this influence as we continue. That is the backstory to The Dark Crystal. With that now told, it's time to look at the plot of The Dark Crystal. If you have not seen the film and do not want its plot spoiled, now would be the time to stop watching. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in our next video. For those that have stayed, it's time to talk about the plot of The Dark Crystal. The Dark Crystal takes place on the planet Thra. There, a shard breaks off from the Crystal of Truth, creating two new species, the cruel Skeksis and the Uru, commonly known as the Mystics. Ursu, the leader of the Mystics, raises Jen, a young gelfling whose clan was slaughtered by the Skeksis. Dying, Ursu reveals that Jen is supposed to fulfill a prophecy to heal the crystal by getting the shard from the Oracle Algra. The Emperor of the Skeksis also dies, and there is a trial to determine the new leader. Skek-Ung wins, while Skek-Sil loses. Once the Skeksis learn about Jen, Skek-Ung sends the giant crab-like Gartham to stop her. Skek-Sil follows along. Jen finds Aughra, who lets Jen pick the shard, but before Aughra can explain Jen's mission, the Gartham arrive. They take Aughra prisoner, but Jen is able to escape. While Jen is traveling through a swamp, he meets Kira, another gelfling. The two accidentally dream fast, which shares all their memories with each other. The two stay with the Podlings, who raised Kira. The Gartham show up and raid the village. Jen, Kira, and Kira's pet are able to escape with the help of Skek-Sil, who keeps the Gartham from pursuing. Jen and Kira discover the ruins of a gelfling civilization, and discover the prophecy there. Skek-Sil interrupts the two, explaining that the prophecy was the reason for the Skeksis destroying the gelflings. Skek-Sil tries to get the gelflings to come with him into the castle. The gelflings do not listen and instead take landstriders to go to the castle themselves. Along the way, the gelflings encounter the Gartham and the captured podlings. While trying to save the podlings, the Gelflings descend to the castle moat and then into the catacombs. Skeksil follows them and tries to take them to the Skeksis. Jen stabs Skeksil in the hand with a crystal shard, and Skeksil buries Jen in a cave-in and takes Kira. Kira is turned over to the Skeksis to have her life essence drained to extend their lives. Agra, who is also imprisoned by the Skeksis, tells Kira to call the animals, who break free and release Kira. At the time of the prophecy, the Gelflings meet in the crystal chamber. They are discovered and the Garthim attack. Jen leaps onto the crystal but drops the shard. Kira grabs the shard and throws it back to Jen before being fatally stabbed by the Skeksis. Jen plunges the shard into the crystal, fulfilling the prophecy. The Garthim disintegrate, the podlings regain their essence, and the castle loses its dark stone structure to reveal a crystalline structure. The Uru and Skeksis then merge to become the angelic Ur-Skeks, their original form. The Ur-Skeks reveal that they had mistakenly shattered the crystal 1,000 years ago. This split the race into two different races, and it was only through the sacrifice of Jen and Kira that they were restored. The Ur-Skeks then revive Kira and ascend into a higher plane of existence. They leave Jen and Kira to a restored Thra. That is the plot of the Dark Crystal. While the story received mixed reviews from critics, the unique world that Henson created would be ripe for video games. Because of the lack of initial success, the Dark Crystal would not see an immediate video game adaptation. However, we will see a video game based on the Dark Crystal in the future.
We're good.
That will do it for the story of the Dark Crystal for now. My name is ballerscuba. This has been Video Games Over Time. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in our next video when we talk about some of the other stories of 1982.